In a world where most people watch movies and then forget about them, these brave heroes join forces to watch them again and then talk about them. Join them in their epic journey as they go back in time, a decade and beyond, to revisit and break down films from a vast array of genres. Do these movies hold up over time? Are they classics? Find out on Retro Movie Roundtable. Starring your hosts, Bryan Frye, Chad Robinson, Dustin Melbartis, Lizzy Haynes, and Russell Guest. Coming now to headphones in your ears.
Welcome all you lords, ladies, and knights to the Retro Movie Roundtable. Welcome to the show where we watch movies and then talk about them. I am your host, Russell Guest, and joining me today are my good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Chad Robinson from right here in the Steel City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. How you doing, sir?
I'm great, getting back in the groove. Just recorded an episode 2 days ago and back again.
Well, welcome back. And in a way, this is changing of location from the Derby City for the last time in Louisville, Kentucky. In a closeout, we have Lizzy Haynes the night before a move. How you doing, Lizzy?
Yay, I'm good. All of my stuff is packed except for my microphone and my computer. Looking forward to being settled. And but other than that, I'm great.
She's not leaving the bluegrass state, though, so.
That's right. That's right. Just going about an hour east.
All right. Now, what movie is a movie that you love to think about? Perhaps it's a thought-provoking movie or just resonates with you deeply. You like to chew on it, and it just kind of sits in your head a little bit there. I'm going to kick it to you first, Chad.
It was actually with this crew that we recorded My Dinner with Audrey. And that's a movie I think I enjoy thinking about and reviewing in my head more than I enjoyed watching it. Like, that was an awesome discussion in the philosophy behind it. It's really thought-provoking. But the movie itself, I guess this gets people talking.
Well, we have the On Dinner with Andre crew here, so
yeah.
It made me want to try a Cornish hen at some point, or so.
Yeah, so small.
Right.
Lizzy, how about you? What's a movie that just gets in your head and you love to think about it?
Oh man, I have actually really had a tough time thinking about this. It's one of those questions where I feel like you can answer it so easily when you're not put on the spot. But the first movie that really popped in my head, I feel like I'm gonna laugh saying this, but was Dead Poet Society. I feel like that was the first time I ever saw Robin Williams in a really serious role, and I was around the same age as like the schoolboys when the movie came out, so like that adolescent age, and just seeing a teacher develop such close relationships with his students and really teach them to think and speak for themselves and kind of question authority and like carpe diem and like all the things. It's just, I remember crying so hard the first time that I watched that movie. And then I tried watching it shortly after Robin Williams' untimely death, and I couldn't get through it. It was too much for me. So I don't know if I'll ever have the guts to revisit it, but that was the first one that popped in my head.
You got to pass that experience on to your children when they're ready. So you got to got to find it. You got to find space in there for one more time.
Right time
for
to
them.
Stand on their desk, just not
so,
to me.
I have never seen that movie. I need to see that movie still.
It's worth a watch.
What is a movie I like to think about? I'm going to say, Chad's not going to like this, but Mr. Nobody is a movie that we covered in the first season.
I like that movie.
And if I watch that movie, A, I get sucked in, but B, you just find these little moments in your life with the people around you, little moments, little things that seem insignificant at the time could matter a great deal. Small little things could indicate whether you bump into somebody who will alter your life. Your job could be different. You could move to a different town. You could marry somebody different. Your children could be different children if they were just conceived at different times. You know, I mean, there's so many different possibilities. And when you start thinking about this, you only get to live one life, and it's a very special thing. But there's all these other alternate paths through this lifetime. And once you start to chew on that, there's a lot of movies that dive into this. I think even Nicolas Cage's Family Man or The Butterfly Effect. But these movies are not nearly as good as Mr. Nobody.
I am thinking of the wrong movie. I thought I've just realized in my mind as you're describing the plot. I don't think I've seen this movie. I thought you were talking about Nobody with like Better Call Saul in it.
No,
okay,
this
no.
is
And
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto.
oh,
Yeah.
ooh, okay. I don't know if I like that. I used to love Jared Leto, but he's too serious. I liked him like circa Urban Legend and like My So-Called Life,
Oh,
but
no, this is very serious.
um,
Jared Leto.
Diane Kruger's in it as well.
I think my comments, because this was one of the first years I was on, was this movie makes me question whether I really like movies.
It's
Oh,
true. He did
gosh.
say that. Yes, that's a throwback. That's a throwback to the beginning. You're right.
First of all, when I thought that you were talking about the movie Nobody, I was like, that's a kind of an interesting movie.
No.
Like, I mean, hey, who am I to judge what resonates with you?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Jason Statham movie. It's a real thinker.
Inception will get in my head too, but anyway, what's the last movie you saw, Chad?
Well, Russell, you farmed me out to our friends over at the Historical Movies podcast. I had a great time. We talked about the movie Glory. So I recommend once that comes out, checking them out. Just check out their channel anyway. But if you want to hear me talk about the Civil War, which doesn't sound like an appealing pitch to probably most people.
It does. Your history. You're our history cop. I mean, this is what you do. You do movies. You do history. It's all there. Everything except for the horror genre is. People want more Chad. Don't be shy.
Yes, our comments reflect that.
and that's so for those who want to make connections. Ross from the Italian Job episode came on, so he was a great guest as well. So if you want to hear more from them, definitely check their show out as well. I can't wait to hear that myself, even though I need to watch Glory to get ready to see that, because I also have never seen Glory. So
please watch Glory, please.
Well, it sounds like a glorious episode to check out. So, Lizzy, how about you? What's the last movie you saw?
Okay, guys, I'm very excited to share this with you. I've intentionally withheld it from the group chat. I have watched John Wick movies, and I like them. I'm on John Wick 3 now. That's the last movie that I watched.
Oh.
It did not go the way that I thought it was going to go. The very first, everything, I knew the event that was the catalyst to John Wick, re-entering this world and going crazy. I didn't expect it was going to happen that way or so quickly, or that it would be Theon Greyjoy that would do it. But all of these things were true. And I kind of liked it. And so then we watched John Wick 2, and then we watched John Wick 3 last night. And if I can manage to stay up late, we are going to watch John Wick 4. I'm going to do all the way. I'm going to go the whole way.
Ooh, that's a long one. John Wick 4 is very long, but
is it? Yeah, it was longer.
Baba Yaga is fun.
I'm a fan.
Awesome.
I can't tell you. I can't explain why I like these movies and not really almost any other action movies, other than the fact that I kind of like this little world, this idea of the table and all these things that are happening underneath our nose. And I don't know. It's fun. We'll see.
It's stylish like Kingsman. It's just far less funny.
That's a good way. It's not very funny, but I do like it, and I like how serious and how little Keanu Reeves speaks. I find that funny.
And the last movie that I saw was on a very different note. I saw the How to Train Your Dragon remake. So
yay! Did you
like it? It was fun.
It?
I did like it. It is beat for beat, very similar. They made no efforts to veer from the path. It's a great story. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a great story, so you can't, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So Toothless looks more real, and the dragons look more real. I personally still prefer the cuteness of the dragons and the characters and the animated world, but you can't go wrong. Grant had gotten older to the point where he didn't necessarily remember how magical How Train Your Dragon was for him the first time, which he loved it. So seeing it again was a refresher for him, and so it's valuable for that. So
nice.
I'm sure it'll be one of the top 10 grossing box office movies of the year. They don't get points for being creative, but they didn't ruin it, so that's important.
Yeah,
some of these remakes.
So
exactly, some of these remakes go off the track. So in this case, DreamWorks live action remake might be better. I don't know. We'll have to see if they come up with a live action Shrek.
I was going to say, wait till Shrek.
I know.
Horrifying donkey.
If they get Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy to actually do these things, then maybe we'll be back.
the last time we put Mike Myers in a animal suit went really well. It
Oh,
completely
for Cat in the
balanced.
Hat. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I forgot about that. That was
yeah,
brutal. The movies
yeah.
break
Caused
my heart
Dr.
a lot.
Seuss's estate to revoke any future licenses for that stuff.
I just don't understand how, like, it still sounds like a good idea because you came off The Grinch with Jim Carrey. Mike Myers is funny. How does this not work? I mean, Martin
Because
Short.
people in cat suits are terrifying. I have been on this soapbox forever.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
it's really hard because the cat, I mean, when you read the book, The Cat in the Hat, I mean, not to get like too deep here, but he's like an anarchist. Like, that's
Yeah.
like really, I mean, he is just, and it's hard to communicate that in a way that's still playful. And like, there's like a really thin line with kids, I think. And like, to Chad's point, it's like also would be really easy to make it scary. And then you're going to have parents like writing angry letters about how like they're influencing their kids to misbehave. And then there's like the Alec Baldwin of it all. It was just like a whole mess.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's a cartoon that Martin Short does the voice for, and I thought that was kind of moderately enjoyable. So maybe Martin Short would have been the better Cat in the Hat. I don't
I
know.
think you might have been. Yeah,
I mean,
I would have
stranger
actually liked
danger exists. We shouldn't be letting strange anything into our house.
that. Right.
Well,
Speaking
have
of
a-
which,
speaking of strange, dangerous things entering
What a
our
segue.
houses, yeah. Chad, what movie are we going to cover today?
I set you up so well, but I'm so excited to talk about this. I've been trying for years to get this on the podcast, and Lizzy came through. She's like, let's do this one. Night of the Hunter from 1955.
Night of the Hunter. That's right. Stars Robert Mitchum, Shelley Winters, Lillian Gish, Billy Chapin, Sally Jane Bruce as well. It budgeted for $600,000. I don't have what it grossed domestically in the box office, but I will tell you this much: it did not perform particularly strongly. The number one movie from 1955 is Lady and the Tramp, so strong showing there from Disney. IMDb gives Night of the Hunter a strong 8.0. If you think that's strong, get these Rotten Tomatoes scores: 93% from the critics and an audience score of 90%. So Night of the Hunter did not win any awards upon its initial release in 1955, and despite being critically acclaimed later and talked up by many directors and being highly influential, its box office was kind of a failure. It received negative reviews initially, and the film was later recognized and added to the National Film Registry in 1992. AFI appreciates this movie greatly and ranks it at number 34 on the AFI Thrills countdown. And on the list of 100 heroes and villains, the number 29 villain is Reverend Harry Powell. So again, this movie wasn't appreciated at the time, but it has some clout coming in where we are now. Lizzy, has you seen Night of the Hunter before?
I had never even heard of it. I know that that's like sounds so bad. So a little background context is you had texted me your suggested movie, Chad's suggested movie, and then was like, maybe if you want to throw one in and we'll just pull one from the pot. And the first movie that popped in my head, knowing that the context that we wanted to do something older, was Grease. And then I immediately was like, I'm not going to do that.
I would have loved that. Yeah.
I enjoy Grease. I would have thought Dustin and I would have been your crew. I'm surprised
Like,
about you, Chad. I did not have you pegged as a Grease guy.
But and I feel like that it's like, you know what? We're gonna pick one that I haven't heard of before, and we're just gonna go with it. And this is exactly why I love doing this podcast, is that you guys introduce me to movies that I've either never heard of or had heard of, but have completely dismissed because I just assumed I wouldn't like it. This movie was, I think, honestly, it feels like this movie walked so many, many other movies could run. And I really just say thank you. There's not really much I could say without getting into the plot, but I loved it.
Okay. Did you find it thrilling?
Yeah, I mean, I would say once you get to a certain point of the movie and you kind of understand, like, it makes it very obvious who Harry is, like, from the jump. Like, you immediately know who this guy is. Like, the director
Evil
wants
music.
to understand, but there's one thing to kind of hear him describe himself versus to actually see him in action. And once you actually see what he's capable of and see the length that he'll go, that's when it became, I would say that second half was really when I'm on the edge of my seat and deeply disturbed.
All right. So these are great things to hear about a movie. And Chad, how about you? Sounds like you knew all about this and you have been lobbying hard for this one. We talked about it in Do the Right Thing. Even earlier this year when we covered that, there's a strong reference within the movie Do the Right Thing. Tell us, what is your background with this?
Yeah. So I would say I saw this maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I was utterly floored. Loved it from the get-go. I went in thinking, black and white in the 50s, how scary could this really be? And you know what? This is my bailiwick. Like, this type of horror, religious horror, can go really, really poorly. And a lot of times it can wind up being sacrilege. I'm like, this isn't as fun. This is different. A serial killer masquerading as a reverend. And you know what? Him singing Leaning on the Everlasting Arms, that's one of my favorite hymns. And here's the creepy thing, and I swear this is true. I watched this movie on a Saturday, and I went in on Sunday for my bass practice for our worship practice, and our worship leader had us do Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. And I told him after our worship set, it's like, this was heavily featured in a horror movie that I just watched. And he's like, really? And I told him what the name of the movie was. He's like, I don't know why you bother. I'm never going to watch it. But he was amused. So he came off pretty amused by that. But we had no conversation. And it changes the tone of a beloved hymn forever. I cannot hear this hymn without seeing Harry Powell. And that to me is powerful.
Yeah.
And again, my background with it was Chad had told me to see it. And I'd make note that I should see these things. I just don't.
And then ignore them.
No, I just don't get to see movies that are not movies that I'm either watching with Grant and or I'm not watching for the podcast and or I'm not cramming to see what happened 10 years ago because I always look forward to our 10 years ago episode. And so throughout the year, I sprinkle in a few of those things that you just miss along the way. Last minute chance to catch things that you would otherwise lose in the sands of time. That's a very that takes up a lot of my movie watching at this part of my life right now. So I don't ingest as many movies as I once did. So I'm putting these things. So, I'm not taking your suggestions and throwing them over my shoulder carelessly. I care about them, but I'm just, they are literally probably earmarked for a different phase of my life in many cases. So it's good that you forced this one a little more strongly, like you did with Peeping Tom. I remember you were saying like, you got to see this. And I'm like, I'm sure I will. And sometime in the next 20 years.
I will hold you down and force you eventually.
And exactly. So Chad made that happen. He made this happen. I'm so glad he did. I love this movie. I will be like you. I'll be telling people, you got to see this movie. And they'll probably put it in their, I'll watch it in 20 years category, just like I have. But thank you, Chad, for bringing it to our attention. It's as exciting. It's thought. I think that it's pretty simple, actually. But there's beauty in its simplicity at the same time. It's incredibly effective. And we'll get into this, but its execution is what sets it above so many other things. You could take the same script and have a much lesser movie. This is a well-made movie. And that is in itself what makes it special. I think that's why so many directors are going to take influence from it. So if you have eyes that enjoy seeing and, that beneath the layer of just what the story is, if you see how the film is crafted, this thing is an absolute treat. So you're not going to want it spoiled for you, though, and we will be spoiling this movie when we come back from these messages.
Welcome to the All 80s Movies Podcast.
I'm Bill.
And I'm Jason. And this is the podcast where we talk about the blockbusters, the flops, and everything in between from one of the freshest decades for movies, the 1980s. So whether you're a brain, a jock, a valley girl, or a Jedi, we've got some 80s classics for you.
Do these movies stand the test of time? Are we discovering something new? Is there an 80s movie we're finally watching for the first time?
Join us each week as we dive into the cinematic nostalgia that inspired and influenced a generation. From the hits to the cult classics, we'll discuss our earliest memories, favorite scenes, fun facts, and our not-so-favorite movie moments too.
It's the All 80s Movies Podcast, now available on all major streaming platforms. Please subscribe and happy listening.
All right, this is your final warning. And Chad, for those who haven't seen Night of the Hunter since 1955, do you want to refresh our memories?
During the Great Depression, Ben Harper is arrested for robbery and murder, but before he's caught, he hides $10,000 in his daughter's doll. Ben makes his young kids, John and Pearl, promise not to tell anyone where the money is. In prison, Ben shares a cell with a preacher named Harry Powell, who becomes obsessed with finding the money. After Ben is executed, Powell tracks down and courts Ben's widow, Willa. Eventually, he tricks her into marriage, all the while trying to pry the secret of the money's location from the children. Harry kills Willa, and the children flee. John and Pearl float downriver until they're taken in by a kind woman named Rachel Cooper, who provides a home for orphaned children. Powell eventually finds them, leading to a tense standoff. Rachel shoots Harry and traps him in her barn until the law catches up with Powell and he's arrested. A lynch mob forms and tries to get justice on Harry, but the law drives him away before the mob can get their hands on him. John, Pearl, and the other children celebrate Christmas as Rachel gives a speech of how children abide troubled times.
All right. Now, let's get into this one. This movie is originally overlooked at the time. People didn't get it. I'm going to just start right off the bat by, what do you think they were seeing at the time that didn't hit in 1955, Lizzy?
Gosh, the number one thing that I would imagine is they were not ready for it. I think that I really don't think the movie itself is not something to be critiqued. I really think that this movie is done so well. The story, the cinematography, the artistry of it, and then just the ability to show, honestly, the opening scene is so perfect when Rachel, at this point you don't know that this is Rachel Cooper, but she's speaking to the children and she's talking about to beware of false prophets and beware of a wolf in sheep's clothing, setting the tone for the entire movie. It's a really dark concept. And when you think about the cultural climate in the 50s, that was kind of the 50s was kind of, you associate it with just like joy and poodle skirts and sock hops and all things lovely. And I think, and this, Leave It to Beaver life. And I think it really, I just don't think that the culture and society was ready to see such a dark underbelly, especially because it's so sensitive with the conversation about Christianity and how there can be a lot of darkness and how people can really take the Lord's name in vain. And in that way, not just in the the sense of the word, but to do evil doings in the name of God. And I don't think that they were ready for it.
I think that's exactly it. Harry Powell is he's a religious man that's evil. And that is not portrayed at this point in time. You could find that a dime a dozen at this point. A lot of them are poorly done, but the movies exist out there. Harry Powell abusing religion to gain whatever it is that he's looking for, money and wealth, and he's killing people. We see a woman laying on the cellar. We never even get her story, but then Powell's driving away and he's just praying to God for his next victim. That's some dark, dark stuff. And even when he gets asked, what is your religion, sir? It's like, what I've worked betwixt God and myself. So he's created this own warped version of, we'll call it Christianity because he's quoting Bible stories, but he actually never says the name of Jesus, which I think is very, very relevant for a scene with Rachel, because she is calling on Jesus and he never says it. He says Lord and he'll say God, but he doesn't bring up Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know, I never thought about that, but that is really powerful to think about, because when you trace everything back to the garden, right? It's like he's doing exactly, he's falling into that temptation of trying to define his own terms of good and evil, and it's worked for him several times, and but at the end of the day, like, he eventually gets his comeuppance. He reaps what he sows. But to have somebody that's so evil, it's really, it's core shaking, honestly. He's a really, really unbelievable villain.
I also saw that Robert Mitchum, and I'm not familiar with his filmography very much, but he was cast against type. Like, people wanted to see him be this, I guess he was almost like a John Wayne manly type person. And here he's just filthy, slimy, snake oil evil.
Well, he's charming when he needs to be. He has people in town fooled, so the role is very nuanced in that. I mean, I find him. I'm going to draw an allusion to like what we covered with No Country for Old Men.
Mm-hmm.
We have a killer dressed in black, remorseless, no moral compass whatsoever, and he's very frightening. But he is just absolutely a machine made for murdering. He's not nice to anybody. He kills anybody who gets in his way. This might even be even more frightening than that because he is capable of deceiving you in your town. He can be downright charming. He fools people. I think I like the fact that Rachel is a very deeply religious woman, and she can see through him as saying, I love it when he said, "That's not my father." He's like, and he's not a pastor.
Yeah,
either.
And you're no preacher.
And you're no preacher. And I think that is, and she knew it. And she was onto it quickly because she understood. So with those who could see through him, but he's able to deceive the masses with great effect. And he has a song and dance that's capable of fooling even John and Pearl's mother. And that's a really scary. I think Chad, you don't like this movie, Rosemary's Baby, but there's a fear of just watching something unfold that you know is going to happen. You know, he wants to come in and just marry her for this money. And that is a bad, like, for a whole middle third of this movie, that is like that's where we're sitting for a period of time. And that's creepy. This guy's going to be your father. Like that ability to fool others, to me, I mean, again, there's a lot of great villains, but I'm looking at this list and I'm sitting there going like, this is deserved. This is a top 30 villain of all time.
Yes.
And I think you mentioned it, Lizzy. The church at this point, at least in the media, is portrayed as an upstanding backbone of the community and of neighborhoods, and one you can count on. When you have a problem, these are people you can turn to. Well, we have come of age in a time where the Catholic Church has had a lot of controversy and just it never stopped unfolding, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And there is disillusionment, and people are flawed. Even people who are supposed to be in a position where they're supposed to be helping others. And like you said, Chad, there's not only enough stories and movies now, but unfortunately, you don't have to look far in the news before you see somebody or televangelists who have just extorted people for their beliefs in some cases as well, and to get rich for themselves. Here in the 50s, I got to give them credit. They're way ahead of their time on this as being a villain. So this isn't just Michael Myers running around in a janitor's mask, killing people. Love that, by the way. That's all good stuff too. But there's something that is very chilling about this and how they present him in that all black. Whew.
It's the control effect for me. You mentioned that he is charming them or whatever else, but he's exerting control.
Yes.
Look at that scene with Willa, and it breaks my heart because she's kind of preening in the mirror, and today we'd be like, what is she doing? But that was a sexy outfit for her, and she's preparing for her husband on her honeymoon, and she's kind of thinking, I look good. And she goes in and he ignores her and says, did you think I would start pawing at you? And that her sin of her own sexuality drove her husband to the point of robbery and gets him killed. And then the next time we really see her, she's like really covered up. And it wasn't scandalous clothing in the first place, but she's really covered up, and she is talking to a crowd of people about the evil she has committed of just trying to get makeup or things, and how she's repenting of her sexuality. So it's the warping and the control. All of that is the snake oil salesman is scary enough. The charm is scary enough, but seeing how he's warping everyone in his path, that's what terrifies me. And he's got that group in the tent that are cheering it on.
It is so scary because, you know, there's a reason why, like, the first commandment is to, like, we honor God, we love no God before you, but there is a commandment to not take the Lord's name in vain. And obviously, of course, people now associate it with, like, saying, like, OMG, which there's truth to, but I really think truly, like, the context of it, I like to think, is like the idea of doing something in the name of God, when in reality it's like for our own gain. Because what that does is, to your point, Russell, of talking about like how there's so many people like that in the world, is you're gaining someone's trust and control over someone with the promise of eternal life, eternal love by God. And in reality, you're really violating that trust. And then if you know, Harry is only like this one community's only connection to what God could be like, then you're revealing a character that could not be farther away from God's.
What was happening to you as you watched Willa? I'm really interested in that.
I mean, okay, from a woman's perspective, right? Like sex is a beautiful thing between your like husband and wife. It's an unbelievable gift, and every woman wants to feel beautiful, and every woman wants to feel sexy, especially in front of your husband on your wedding night. Like, you want to consummate your marriage, like and understanding that he's a reverend, I imagine that they would have really saved that night to be like a special gift between the two of them. And as a woman, I feel like I cannot imagine being felt to be made like a harlot, and then like the way that I feel like I would cover myself and then just feel so much shame. I think that's really the best word to describe how I imagine Willa was feeling, was utter and complete shame, which is such a hard feeling to overcome as a woman. So I think if all people in the world, for your husband to be the person who's supposed to be protecting you and loving you and lifting you up, to be the one who's generating that source of shame, is heartbreaking and so sad. It crushed me to watch that look when he made her stand in front of the mirror and look at herself. It really, like, I have like chills even like revisiting it. It really made me so sad. And then to see her in that next scene be very like fire and brimstone, you could just see how he had gotten his clutches into her. But the director and the writer and the actress that plays Willa, I give them all so much credit, because as a woman, you feel that shame for her in that moment. Like it was very challenging to watch, and it was all to their credit, because I think that's exactly how any woman would feel if their husband was speaking to them like that. It was just, so horrible, so hard to watch. And then her laying in bed afterwards and basically saying that this is all some kind of like divine plan, and she's almost like in a fugue state. It's really, really sad.
I think that it also justifies John putting this burden. Sorry, John's father. I think this justifies John's father putting this burden on John. He says, "Your mother has no common sense," and at first I thought, well, that's an incredibly harsh thing to say about your wife.
It's
and then
the 50s.
Yeah.
Well, and then you get a little bit into it, and you're sitting there going like, John is not fooled. He knows that this dude is up to no good. He sees through him, and he knows that, wait a minute, you were in jail with my dad. You probably want the money. You know I have the money. Like John has everything figured out. He's a bright boy, and you're sitting there going like, well, yeah, well, I get his dad's point of maybe you should hold on to this $10,000, which, and if you're watching this and you're thinking that's not worth a lot, this is $200,000 roughly in today's time, and it's in a particularly not wealthy part of the world, and that it's in West Virginia, where Chad and I are from. So, and not too far from Kentucky there.
In the 50s, women, I mean, it wasn't like, it's not to say that women didn't have any rights in the 50s, but I think women were in a lot more vulnerable of a position in the 50s. I think particularly to be a widow. And I think, I think that John's dad knew his fate, like as he was chasing, and he fully understood he was not going to be around to see this money or to raise and protect his children. So I don't think he was particularly kind by saying that his wife didn't have any common sense. I think perhaps but I think all of that was rooted in this idea of like, she's vulnerable and I want to protect her. Like, she is going to be put in a vulnerable position because the town is going to understand that somewhere there is money that is hidden, and they could potentially target her to try to get to it, which is exactly what happens. And I want to make sure that I'm putting her in a position to not know and just reserve the right to be ignorant. And I think, I think it was actually rooted in kindness. I just think he kind of was a jerk in communicating it.
Yeah.
He was being chased by the police.
Right. Yeah. It's a panic. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It was set in the 30s, so yeah, attitudes and agency are even worse at that point. But
Definitely.
I see it today. Like I have a younger friend. She's in her early 40s and she was widowed. And within about a month, people are starting to do matchmaker of, oh, you can't be alone. And she didn't even really have time to like grieve and go through and figure out, who am I apart from this marriage that I had? And they're already inappropriate matchmaking and
Yeah.
just gossip and things like that. So I can't imagine at a different time. And Harry Powers, the guy that this is based on, was hanged in 1932. So I have to imagine the setting is close to this time period.
Yeah.
well, Mitchum wants this part of this amazing villain character. Charles Laughton thought the world of him. There's a quote saying that one of the best actors in the world, he said of him. He wrote in Esquire, and all this tough talk is blind, you know. He's a literate, gracious, kind man with wonderful manners. He speaks beautifully, and when he wants to, he's a tender man and a great gentleman, and you know he's really terribly shy. Mitchum really wanted this role. He auditioned that he particularly impressed Laughton there, and so his desire for it. So he said that he was a diabolical crap, and I'm paraphrasing as I'm saying crap, and that Mitchum would say present, like like when he was describing the character as like this absolutely terrible, deplorable person. And so Mitchum wanted to play this bad guy, and he did it very well. You read Mitchum has drinking problems and stuff in the run, but the director seems to really like what he brought to this movie. And we've talked about what a great villain character he is. Do you like Gary Cooper was considered for this. Gary Cooper's a big actor. He turned it down, saying this will destroy my career. Didn't do Charles Laughton any favors as far as his direction career. In fact, he never goes on to direct another movie. This is the only movie he ever directs. So, he's a good actor in his own right, and he has a pretty strong acting career to fall on. He goes on to direct on the stage and live performance. And so he don't feel too bad for him. But as far as a director goes, this is an amazing one and done effort. But with Mitchum, again, playing against type here, he's amazing, isn't he?
Yeah, that voice. Lizzy, I know, going back to our Kiss the Girls episode, you like a villain with a velvety, honeyed voice, and that is Robert Mitchum. Man, his inflection and his choice of children. Like, I wish I had that type of voice, but even when he's projecting outside the house, the lean on the everlasting arms, how he chooses to sing it. I know this is presented, like Charles Laughton has said, this is a children's story, which is psychotic, by the way. But he's like the big bad wolf trying to get in, and he chooses to sing in a much slower pacing for lean. So it just becomes a menacing tune. And I don't think it works without that almost like gospel quartet, barbershop quartet style voice of his. Everything he says has power, but he can switch it from oozing honey to menace of, that makes me real mad, little lamb. That makes me real mad. And it's like, oh, okay, don't touch the knife, Pearl. Like,
He's fantastic. I could not agree more about the voice. It is there. The reason why it's so amazing is because that voice was designed to soothe, but for him to use it for an alternative purpose, it just makes it all the more menacing. I love how he is, as an actor, he's so confident, and that you can feel just with every single stride, even that Harry is making, that he is so sure of himself. And, when he's talking, having these conversations with, his version of God, and I think he really thinks he's got that direct line, and that this is all really, he somehow has God's ear through all of this. And he has so much confidence, and that is what allows him to be, because without that type of confidence, I don't think that you can really manipulate and get under people's skin and really convict them the way that he has. And that is I imagine a pretty hard quality to act, like just be sure, so sure of himself. And then to pair it with that voice where it's like the perfect voice to sing like a soothing lullaby, and even to sing this like beautiful church hymn, but to do it with so much evil underneath it is haunting. It's fantastic.
and he does that primal animalistic scream in the water. It's just, I've never heard anything like that from a human being, but I believe it from him. Even
when the kids get away, he's just so mad, and it's fantastic.
I feel like the basement scene too. Like, Russell,
Oh,
you love Nosferatu. You had to see like Nosferatu when he's got his arms lurching at the children. That
Yeah.
angle, like I have to believe they're doing this intentionally, but that
Yeah.
could have looked really stupid from anybody else. It looks like you're doing Thriller or something up the stairs.
Yeah. He has jelly all over him, so he's just like extra, I guess, like extra oozy goozy.
Well, with great evil in these fairy tales, as you said, and in fairness, it's not that laughable. Charles Laughton thought of it as a Mother Goose story. He would call his heroine of this the Mother Goose directly. And so with great evil, there's also wonderful warmth and goodness that comes into this movie in the role of Rachel, played by Lillian Gish. Some other big names like Jane Starwell, Ethel Barrymore, Helen Hayes, Agnes Moorehead, Louise Fazenda, amongst others, are considered for the role of Rachel Cooper. Lillian Gish gets the part. And there's one of the things that makes this work so well is that she makes it all okay, and then the end is truly rewarding. We get John and Pearl to somebody who is safe, and it feels really good. Talk about this hero of this movie.
Man, I can't imagine Agnes Moorehead. I always picture her as Endora from Bewitched, like she calling someone Durwood or whatever, just being mean to Darren and kind of tormenting Samantha's family, which would be an interesting take on this. But yeah, Lillian Gish is a powerhouse. Like, I don't know how you pack so much iron will into such a small, diminutive person. Like, you can tell. We grew up in West Virginia. Russell referenced this. This is not a woman you mess with. And she manages to get that across in the sweetest possible way. But there's something about that character that just says, no matter what, I'm going to stand between you and these children, and this barrier will not be crossed. And you believe her from the get-go. She's stern with the kids, but she loves them. She's going out and saying, oh, you're going out for love in the only way you know how. And that was kind of a sweet message. And she's teaching them, she's reading them very short and confusing Bible stories. Like, I don't know what they were supposed to get out of that. They found Moses.
It's a 90-minute movie, Chad.
I understand, but I'm like, this is perplexing. Of like, there's a baby in a basket, and the end. Yeah, I love her character so
I do
much.
too. I do too. I think she's fantastic. I saw it in or heard it in a podcast episode, I believe, about kind of the differences between being like a cultural Christian versus being like someone that's really rooted in a faith walk. And they use the point of saying, you know, like demons know God's word. Like even like demons and like Satan, they understand God's word. So it's not enough to be able to recite the Bible. You actually have to like walk the walk and walk in faith every day. And to me, Harry and Rachel kind of emulate that in the sense that Harry can quote scripture, he
Mhm.
can sing the songs, but he is he is not a friend of God's. He's not a friend of Jesus's. But Rachel, however, is, and you know, you could argue like that Harry of the two, perhaps Harry is like kind of more surface charming in the sense. So, you know, if you had to look at like point them two out, like he's the one that's probably going to walk up and strike up a conversation with you. Whereas Rachel is kind of just, I would say, more reserved, perhaps is a better way to put it. But she's a woman that absolutely emulates the power of God and the way that she loves those children and the way that she is so convicted and has so much faith that Jesus will guide them to safety. And also to your point, Chad, I love that scene with Ruby when I didn't know what direction that was going to go in. And, you know, if she was going to be kind of more cold, kind of like Harry was, but she showed, you know, Harry in the beginning was like watching that like little dancer with the beads and he was like clutching his like hate fist and so he's looking at someone with lust and that is lustful and feeling hate for them. And then Ruby, someone is underneath her roof, you know, admitting like, I haven't been going to those sewing classes, I've been going out with boys. And you know, you see kind of probably that same self-righteous anger that maybe perhaps Harry's feeling, but she meets Ruby where she's at and meets her with love and compassion. And it's just, she is a godly woman and like the exact person I think sent by God to bring Harry to justice.
It's such a great juxtaposition of what Harry is. Like you said, she is who she says she is, and she walks the walk in a deep way that she doesn't like have to go presenting it all over town.
That's
You know,
right.
she's here to help the children out. That's what would make God extremely happy, to be there and to help those in need. And she is a true. We throw the word godsend around sometimes. You know, this ice cream cone's a godsend or whatever. But in this case, Rachel really is a godsend for
Truly is.
John and Pearl. Like she's the protector, the provider, the sturdy foundation that they can grow up in, and good sisters and stuff like that. And you know, boy, they hit the lottery. You could land a lot of different places going down the
Really
river,
good. Yeah.
and in the middle of the Depression, and they didn't have a ton of money. And that didn't matter. John was willing to part with the money. I like that he was willing to part with the money. I
Mhm.
did not like that it was given out to the police in the moment like that. I didn't like how that was presented, but I liked that it wasn't about the money anymore
That's right.
for John. And so the only thing that also bothered me greatly, and I noticed one of the YouTube analysis mentioned this, was Pearl's willing to go back to them. He has threatened her. They have run away from him. He has chased them. This is a bad man even to a young child, and she comes back up to him at one point. John does not. I have a hard time with that. That's a choice that, you know, I'm sure it was written by James Agee, the screenwriter, and there's like, but that is a direction decision I would have liked to have changed. And I know he got along great with the actor who played John. There was a good warm chemistry there. The director had a hard time with Pearl. The little girl who played an actress, she gave him a tough time.
Yeah.
There's one of those scenes where she makes a frowny face off screen. She's actually just doing it at the director. She doesn't like him very much. So, but that was a strange moment. I'm not going to dock it too many points for that, but I really had like, she's like, Daddy. I'm like, oh no.
You know,
No.
I would actually argue that perhaps why they put that in there, because I didn't particularly like it either. But of course, Harry and his actions, like it's all like this hyperbolic version of evil. But I kids are so quick to forgive. It's like one of their most like lovely habits is like children are so resilient. Like Rachel kind of even talks about that a little bit towards the end about how like God gives you like the most strength when you're a child. And, you know, when I think about how I can get frustrated and how let's reverse this. If like my husband is getting frustrated and he like maybe he like gets like a tone with me, like in my mind it's like okay, like we're in a fight. But like if he gets like a frustrated tone with one of our children and then immediately apologizes, it's like it never even happened. It's like there's a certain resilience in children that like I myself wish that I could emulate, even like that just ability to just like truly forgive and forget. And I think perhaps that was put in there to show kind of like the Peter Parker quote of like, with great power comes great responsibility. Like children will forgive, children will abide, children will they will overlook your imperfections and love you in spite of them because they are programmed to love their parents. And but what comes with that is a deep, deep responsibility to do right by them. So someone like Harry, who is unwilling to do that, is someone that needs to, you know, be taken far, far, far away.
She's just not old enough to really develop that discernment like John. She's told by Willa and she's told by Harry, this is your new daddy. You are to love him. Okay. And she takes that on as her job. I think fundamentally I can never fault abuse victims for being part of this system, this cycle of abuse. Like it's not their fault. There's something going on that just says, okay, well, maybe if I do this, he'll love me more and he'll treat me better. And it's heartbreaking to see, but you can really only fault the abuser. You can't fault the abused child or Willa, who's abused as well. Like our minds, yeah, we're watching and saying, if somebody talks to you like that, walk away. Actually, don't just walk, run. Like, get away from this person. But when they're in that relationship and trying to fix it in whatever way they can, and especially for someone like Harry, who spent a lot of time with Pearl manipulating her, and John's evil, John's the bad guy. Don't listen to John. You're my little lamb and everything else. Even though he says he's going to break her arm at one point. Like Lizzy said, unfortunately, kids will endure that. They'll forgive as long as you hug them and tell them they're good kids and you love them. They'll forgive you in a heartbeat. And
Okay.
it is a terrible thing. But
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I know.
So this is go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying it's just like it's an extra like spooky reminder of like they don't ever take for granted the fact that your children will forgive you because like they deserve the best version of you, and it's just someone like Harry is just so dark and evil.
And in this dark and evilness, something that's even perhaps we haven't mentioned here, both the book, which was a 1953 novel by Davis Grubb, and this movie are drawn on the real story of Harry Powers, a Dutch-born American who was actually hanged in 1932 for the murder of 2 widows and 3 children in Clarksburg, West Virginia. This is a real story.
Wow.
I feel like we see a lot of movies that are based on real stories where it's just like this happened and like where did the experience come from? I think we just remembering that it happened. This movie, I think, turns it into a fairy tale in a really good way. And I got to give Charles Laughton, the director, we got to talk about him. This is the only movie, as we mentioned, it was, dragged through the mud from the reviews. I will say the poster did not help. If you Google the poster for Night of the Hunter, it's not a good poster. Bad. It's a bad poster. It's as bad as the opening title sequence where the kids have their heads disembodied floating in the stars.
That made David Lynch very happy.
I was like, what are we getting into?
David Lynch watches this movie and he's like, I'm stealing that.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I think that David Lynch might have liked that. So, but that is a strange call at the opening title sequence. So, I mean, maybe people got off board with the poster and that, but this is an enormous amount of influence from whether you said, you mentioned like whether it be Frankenstein, Nosferatu, film noir, you have German expression, silent film is all of this stuff. He's pulling out every trick in the book. The lighting, the low-key lighting, the moodiness that is not even necessarily pervasive here by 1955. We're kind of coming out of some of that. And he is doing an amazing job to set the mood, the fear that you have. The music is used so well. This movie is effective. I mentioned earlier on its execution. And we've had a blast talking about Mitchum's. The movie's strongest point is how it's presented. It's scenes, the way it's shot in black and white. Every single scene is done so deliberately, and you don't have to go very far before you sit there and go like, wow, that was really good. Or like, hey, that underwater death corpse scene, like with the water floating around, like that's really chilling. That's good. Or the way that they have a moment of peace as they're drifting down the river after a really tense moment. What that does for you as a viewer is amazing. Like to let you recalibrate after a really tense moment. It lets you appreciate it. Your heart starts to subside. It's very tactful. In 90 minutes of movie, this is not a complicated story. As we mentioned, it's a sadly real life story. It's just told so well. I mean, Lizzy, talk about Charles Laughton and his only direction movie here on this job.
He does such a good job. I mean, we've already talked so much about like the character and the story, and those definitely are to his credit. But I think for me, I loved the artistry of it. Like his use of shadows was so fantastic, and he would take a scene that is supposed to be a kind of a chilling scene, but then would put it in like the best version that I can give is like the scene with Willa and Harry where they're in bed and their whole bedroom. It's like everything about it. It almost looks like a cathedral. Like they've with like the pitched ceilings and the way that every single shot looked like it was done with so much intention and with the intent of being able to use any single moment as a still shot that could have been used to replace the poster. But I absolutely love how he used every single moment. You know, that particular scene, there's the really amazing scene when the standoff starts to happen and all of a sudden Ruby's light candle goes on and just like sweeps past the window and little things like that you would never think of, but that moment is already filled with so much tension, and then to even add it in there just puts this element of suspense because you don't know exactly. You see that Ruby's got out of bed, but you don't still know exactly who's the one walking, and he just takes every single moment and elevates it with so much artistry. I think I cannot believe that this is his only movie and that he hasn't done anything else. But I really, really see how I watched one of the clips that you gave me of Guillermo del Toro talking about it. And I see a lot. I imagine he got so much inspiration from him because a lot of Guillermo del Toro's movies are kind of meant to be like darker fairy tale like movies, and I can see so much where he wanted to do that in it, where there's almost this magical element in every single shot that he does.
Russell, as I watch this movie, I'm like, this finally Russell's time has come. The architecture is here. We have the cabinet of Dr. Caligari with the German expressionism, the sharp angles. We have the Nosferatu influences. Lizzy's point about, and I love the imagery of the light sweeping away the darkness, because Harry is out there in the darkness singing. Rachel is bathed in the light singing Lean on Jesus. And then the candle comes and sweeps away the darkness of Harry, and he's gone. He's gone from that shot. There are so many other just beautiful shots. One of the videos you said, ask 10 directors and they're going to give you 10 different responses as to their favorite shot of this film. And I look forward to hearing your alls. But it reminds me of The Exorcist with Harry standing out by the light post. It reminds me of the poster of The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's just a wonderful shot. Like it's a pretty much empty background with just a lamppost and a dark dressed man outside. with a velvety voice, but somehow that light is just perfectly illuminating what it needs to. We even have a tent scene earlier. The music, I could do without the bombastic evil, evil, but John and Pearl are in like this tent area, and you get that bombastic music, and you see Harry's hat as he first arrives in town. They're like, who's here to see us? And this evil shadow goes on in a lit up tent. So he is really using the light and dark and playing with it to a master's degree. Like it's physically impressive. Every time I watch this movie, I pick up on something else. And the video you were talking about, Spike Lee is calling out that river scene. Guillermo del Toro is like, I have been trying for 25 years to emulate this water shot, and I can't do it. How did he do this in 1955?
You mentioned The Exorcist. William Friedkin, the director from that, was another one who was gushing over this movie and saying like, if you want to learn how to make a scary movie, you must see this movie. So, I mean, there was an abundance of praise for this by other people, and Stanley Cortez is the cinematographer. He often works with Orson Welles, and he worked on him with the magnificent Amber Sims. And he remarked that some years later, that this film, that only two directors that he really understood lighting, and that was Charles Laughton and Orson Welles. And that is a very good cast, that is a very good crew to be put into by somebody who understands camera work. And boy, does he ever, because Cortez and Laughton together really made an amazing team on this one. I would be remiss if we didn't mention the dread that these shots put into you. When you go into the basement, that long shot of these little figures coming down, shot from the side, like it almost feels like you're in a model of sorts, and it feels like this is not safe. Like John didn't want to go down that basement. He's like, we're all going down to the basement. John's like, what? Like, right. I mean,
and so like that it's not there. Like, so you were in on it, and yes, it's so scary.
Or the death scene for Willa was like, something terrible is about to happen. That low angle, the way the shadows are on that gable cathedral ceiling in there. I mean, the murder isn't necessarily the bloodiest. I think if you were to do this today, it'd be pretty fierce, and I'm sure you'd get some Sweeney Todd blood or something like that shooting all over the roof of the house and stuff like that. But you know what? This movie delivered it in the buildup. The fear isn't necessarily in the stab. It's in it's coming. And we very much know that he doesn't love Willa. But I mean, it's more that you're losing John and Pearl's mom.
My wife turned away. Like, she couldn't. I told her, I said, it's the 50s. You didn't wind up getting the blood, but she couldn't watch it. She had to turn away.
She's just so vulnerable in that moment. Again, I hate how taken with him she is. That's part of the horror of this movie, and all that. I even thought there was an initial thing that I thought was goofy in like a Chaplin movie of like the iris eye, where like the circle contracts under, and like, but then it also zooms as it's doing it. So it goes from watching Mitchum come into the house, but then it zooms in on the window where the children's faces are in there. Total silent movie thing to do. I feel like there's some, I think, slapstick comedy with it, but what it does is it takes the focus out. I don't think I would necessarily want to frame it in like that, but the zoom and in the focus of the children's faces is something I won't take away from it. That was a really clever shot, even if the circular cut in is maybe a little questionable by my standards today. What it did was outstanding, that he knew to zoom in and make that as he's coming in to get them, because now your sense of dread is just up. He really truly understands how to build tension. And all the people who keep saying this is one of the scariest movies of all time, I think you mentioned this as a horror movie, Chad. I think that it is horror inducing, but I think that this lives in the thriller zone for me, like the suspense zone. It is horrifying, but something is either so grounded in the dramatic presentation of the characters. Lizzy, do you put this one in your horror? I know you're extremely inclusive, Chad. Like if it scares you, you're a yes, come to the horror party. What about you? Like horror, suspense, thriller, crime? What do you do?
Oh man, I think I would put this in horror rather than thriller. only because usually for me, I mean, this could be true. You could argue this with horror, but I feel like in the thriller movie, usually it's the focus is really on like the protagonist and they're going through like a thrilling situation. And usually that particular protagonist is really in a position to be able to defend themselves and fight, whether it be with like their resourcefulness or with their actual like fighting skills or helping friend, what have you. And whereas in horror movies, usually that final, like the quintessential final girl, usually is someone who's in more of a vulnerable position, but is able to kind of muster up the courage to fight back towards the end. And of course, I'm speaking in like, extreme kind of extreme hyperbolics here. I know that, of course, that's not true for every horror movie, but I think in this particular case, the focus is really more on the villain. And that is true in most horror movies where like the focal point is really about the villain and less about the victims. And I think in this movie, what really the takeaway is Harry. He's really the star of this movie. And the victims, even though like John is a very smart kid and he's ended up being saved by Rachel, they're also like kind of not in that there. I would put them more in like that vulnerable category, just being children. So I don't know. I'm going to say horror, but I think the argument can be made for thriller.
There's significant overlap. I mean, it's in the top 100 thrills, so
Right, yeah.
they don't really have a horror category. But I think this is clearly horror. It's scary. It keeps me up at night thinking about people like Harry. And I have to wonder, like, as you two enter this movie with no knowledge of whatever's going to happen, and you start seeing there's a heavy focus on children, and I am hard on
Oh, that's true.
children.
That's true. Chad, you're normally terribly hard on children.
Like,
That's true. I never even thought about that. Yeah.
I went to bat for this movie, and it's like, once they see the children, they'll know this is a good movie if I'm backing it, if I'm putting my stamp on it.
Huh.
I didn't even think about that.
I also forgot to mention that. Yeah, that's under. You're hitting all your things. History cop Chad, horror movies. Hating children is part of your thing.
I hate annoying children in
Yes.
horror movies. Yes.
I like how I put it.
No, I don't like that as much.
I'm kidding.
Pearl is adorable. I love her so much. Like, she's
so
just
sweet. Yeah, she's darling. And
Yep.
I
Wow,
love
this is
John,
incredibly
too.
off brand for you,
Poor
Chad.
John.
yeah, John too. Like, John's reacting how he should at that
Yeah.
age to somebody who's acting very squirrely. Like,
Yes.
the children act appropriately at all times to me, and they're
Wow.
not causing additional issues. They're trying to solve things as children would try and solve things. So John, with his very poor plan of, go in the basement, it's in the basement, and his idea is, I'm just going to shut the door. And of course, Harry, being an adult, is like, we're all going to go to the basement. John's
Right.
surprised, like, how did this plan fail? Yes, this is
He did need some Kevin McAllister booby traps ready to go. There should have been a paint can to come down and hit him in the forehead.
a nail on the stairs. Yeah.
Yeah, a hot doorknob. Come on. Yeah.
But yeah, everyone is acting their age and acting within reason. None of the kids are whiz kids or have secret knowledge or powers, or they're just. What I really don't like is the kid causing unnecessary problems. Like the kid in Quiet Place, the one that steals the toy and immediately sets it off, and the monster gets them. Like, I am so happy about that. I cheered when that kid was gone.
You don't like precocious children. I can tell you that much.
I
So
don't, no.
like when kids like kind of like have adult like tendencies, like in a Wes Anderson film, like that'll drive Chad up a wall so fast.
When we watched A Quiet Place, we immediately looked at each other and we're like, if this is the world that we're living in, like, we are so screwed. Like, because our kids are 100% going to be the kids. Like, even if they're not trying, it's like, they can't help themselves. But it's, but I do see, I understand like where you're coming from. Like, I know the Babadook is like what would you say?
I love that movie.
Bar? Like, that's like the like the top tier frustrating kid.
Yeah, there's several frustrating kids in horror movies, and it's definitely a trope. But the Babadook is a glaring example that most people are gonna know.
One day, you and Dustin need to make a list of most annoying kids in movies. Top 10 most annoying kids in movies. Like
Oh my
that's your
goodness.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to do a Russell and say I've got to go to 100.
Well, uh, we in this conversation about whether it's horror or not, Stephen King knows a thing or two about horror himself. Says in his eyes, this is the scariest film of all time. So high
Wow.
praise. Yeah,
Wow.
and
I wouldn't go that far, but it is a scary film. Yeah.
so it's deeply impactful. I think you said it walks where others could run. I'm mad that this didn't get to run because the box office didn't say that it ran, because it's perfect. Like I think this movie just needed more money. I mean, to legitimize it like at the time, and I wish people could have dealt with it better at the time. Charles Laughton as an actor, he's an Oscar winner. 1933 wins Best Actor for Private Life of Henry the Henry VIII, Oscar nominee 2 times more, once in 35 and once after this movie, for Best Actor for Witness for the Prosecution in 1957. So he's nominated for 2 BAFTA awards, nominated for another Golden Globe award. So he's normally an actor. So I think that's one of the important things that we're thinking here. He's an actor director, meaning he's directing actors. I think that ability to make sure everything comes together. From what I read, Mitchum was a very troubling guy to focus. He was drunk, he was on drugs, and he was difficult to get on camera at the time. None of this shows.
No.
And so the ability to get what you need out of the actors is another thing that sometimes you don't really get to look under the hood and see how hard the director did. Did a bunch of really talented people show up and just knock it out of the park, and you're Phil Jackson on the Bulls and Michael Jordan won you 6 championships? No. I mean, he had a troubling situation, kind of like when Billy Wilder, we covered something like it hot. Marilyn Monroe was falling apart. She was really having a hard time in life, and Billy Wilder was super frustrated with her, but he made an amazing movie. Same thing here. Of Mitchum may not be falling apart to the degree that Monroe was, but still, like, he's not functioning 100% well. He even goes on national TV with Shelley Winters, and like he tries to do his love and hate routine, and he's drunk on that, and he does the wrong hand and puts like hate beats love as he's trying to stumble through this. And the crowd's like laughing at him. The host of the evening talk show helps him through it. But I mean, this is your main dude who you have to push through here. And as Chad, as you mentioned, children will always be hard to direct too. So let's not forget the directing work to channel the acting in the amazing job that they did here. The environments here, Mitchum really said, we got to go out to West Virginia and shoot this thing, which would have been super cool. They do have some helicopter shots of like the Moundsville Penitentiary, but this is mostly done in a studio. And Laughton said, no, this needs to be in a studio. I need the control for the lighting. I need to do this. Normally, I'm all about going there and just being in West Virginia, and I'd like to claim this movie as being shot in West Virginia. It would be probably the best movie shot in West Virginia if it was. But Lizzy, he chose to be in the studio. Do these environments feel necessarily, like I said, maybe out in front of some of these houses it does, but is the choice of being in a studio better? Obviously, they didn't have a budget to necessarily go out, and so this may not have been a choice necessarily, but maybe so much a necessity. But he sure makes the most out of the studio, I would say, doesn't he?
I mean, he really does. I mean, to me, as long as it's not painfully obvious that this is all done on a set, usually I'm honestly not really even thinking about or questioning if it is. But I do think that there is something to be said about understanding lighting and understanding what you're going to get out of it. Like, I know what I want. I know what I want it to look like, and I know what I need to do in order to accomplish that. And it's going to require a set. Like, I actually really respect that. There's, I think there's a lot of street cred for directors who can go out and just shoot like on the live sets. And you hear directors today bragging all about like being able to be like, we did not shoot in a studio. This was all like live created. Nothing was CGI'd. So I understand that, but I think the end result is so powerful that at the end of the day, like, kudos to him for really understanding that the set would yield the best results. And I did notice it didn't make any difference to me.
Yeah, Russell, you and I have gone back and forth on what you prefer versus what I prefer as far as lighting and shots, whether it's real or artificial. I think it's so hard to get the lighting that we have in this movie if you'd gone on location. It would also be hard, like, you can't shoot in Clarksburg. Clarksburg is far more urban than what this is showing. I mean, even in the 50s, Clarksburg is reasonably developed. This is like some Mingo County, some Roane County style housing that they're trying to depict from the 30s. And
From the 30s, not 55. Like you said, it's 25 years back too.
Right. So that becomes a bigger challenge, but I just don't see a way that you can get some of the lighting that they managed to produce in the memorable shots if you're doing this on location.
Yeah, I don't think at this time period you can pull that off. I think the woods might have improved a little bit. Like, I was aware I was looking at a set in the woods. And like when he falls into the water, he goes too deep too fast. Like, cause like he's like he's down on his knees in like a very small, tiny, like the water is not natural how one goes into the water, like near your ankles, your knees, your waist, and then so again, there's some degree of, it's a tense moment, you'll look away, and these things work out just fine. I'm not gonna fault it. And there's a lot of cool movie magic of just false perspective of like that awesome silhouette, like of him coming and riding on the sunset. That's a dwarf on a pony, like that they had to use to get the scale. So it's like so, or. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that scene where they got the owl to catch the rabbit running in there, which is great foreshadowing. Apparently, that's quite an elaborate trick to get the owl to take off. There's like a fake rabbit; they had to pull it on a string. Like, I mean, and just to orchestrate all these things. I mean, there's a craft to working in the studio too. That when you start to sit there and go like, well, honestly, they did a lot of these things very deliberately, and they nailed it. So there's a lot of music in this, also setting the tone. There's a lot of music here. Lizzy, what do you think about, we have kind of hymns, we have like these almost lullaby like songs but that feel haunting, we have actual score, as Chad mentioned, at times that goes very bold. What do you think about the music here?
I will talk about this now and I'll condense it when it comes to my superlatives, but the music is really my hidden gem. I think that the music is like such a powerful part of this, mainly because all of the music is supposed to be music that, the hymns that he's singing. I had mentioned earlier before we hit record, like my dad is from Harlan and they used to do that like shake note singing and would sing songs like this often. And it, to take a song that is so pure and any kind of worship music really, that's like supposed to be such a sacred way of worship, and then use it for his evil, it creates like just such a haunting extra layer of, I don't know, it just cuts deep really. And I think it was such an amazing tool, because music, as we know, is so powerful to be able to take something that we all associate with lightness and to apply it to have a darker meaning, I think just elevated the entire story for me.
Yeah. Chad, how about you? What do you credit the music? I think you may have mentioned that maybe this had some moments that didn't work for you, but do you like the music here?
Yeah, I'm left wondering what this movie is like if it's set in a different or filmed in a different time period where we're not necessarily giving these musical cues of good, bad. And yeah, when this is framed up as a Mother Goose or a fairy tale type story, I suppose it makes more sense. Like you listen to Peter and the Wolf and everyone has different instrumental cues, and the wolf obviously has a darker tone. Here, the first time we see Harry, there's absolutely no doubt the music is telling you bad, evil, get away. And I wonder what this movie looks like if we aren't given those cues and you subtly find out, oh, Harry's not a good guy. Harry is deceptive, and it becomes more of an unfolding horror rather than upfront bad guy introduced to society, see how he works. But I do like the music. I like it quite a bit. It was just something that kind of stuck in the back of my brain of, for people that have never seen it, as I watched my wife watch this movie, I'm like, she knows right away this dude's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right away, it's telling her. And now there's no mystery or suspense. It's just, okay, let's see what this bad guy does.
Well, Kitty White was an acquaintance of the writer, David Grubb, who wrote the original novel. And Charles Laughton was looking for someone to sing Walter Schulman's Lullaby. Grubb suggested Laughton that he go hear White sing at a nightclub. He did, and that's how she got to sing that haunting lullaby. And that one, that lullaby has so many things going on at one moment. It has that innocence of the children. It has a sense of uneasiness to it. It has, in a weird, like maybe there's hope as they're drifting down the river when this thing is playing. Like, I mean, there's so many things that one song is doing at one time. That's a complex moment for music, and I think that's one of those things where it's just like, wow, it's really powerful when music can make you feel all that stuff at one time in it. So I didn't catch the score as much, but I certainly felt scared and tense with all the shots of I think all the cinematography was leading you to go that way, but it complemented what was happening very well. So I think Laughton's use of music went well for me. It did go big. And I've criticized movies for going big at times, but this movie needed to go big. It had big moments, I thought. Kids finding dead body on steps, wife getting stabbed, chasing children with a knife, going into this basement. I mean, it's a pretty decent list of scary things. Approaching, seemingly defenseless old woman in the house with children. She's not defenseless, but we don't know that at the time. She's pretty tough. But good stuff. Good stuff from the music.
It is so good.
What do you say we hand out some awards, you guys?
Looking forward to it.
MVP Lizzy.
It's Robert Mitchum for me. He's just so fantastic. It's the voice. He is truly like a moth to the flame to these people, and boy, they get burned. And he's fantastic.
Chad, how about you? Who's your MVP?
As much as I would love to give this to Robert Mitchum, especially since it winds up kind of tanking his career, I've got to go with one-hit wonder Charles Laughton. I think the movie's just too gorgeous. It's intense, it's endearing, and it's hugely influential. We've mentioned Guillermo del Toro, Stephen King, Spike Lee, Will Friedkin, and my favorite of all time, not a director, but Robert Englund actually said this influenced how he plays villains. When you're getting this many people who've done such excellent craft come in and say, this little movie was what inspired me, I gotta go Charles Laughton.
I like that.
They're both terrific choices. I had them both written down in case one person said the other and you both said them. So I'm going to have to make a choice, and I'm going to go with Charles Laughton for the same things you said. Mitchum's really impressive to me. But I'll tell you one of the things that breaks the tie on this one. I will never forget his villain performance in this one, but reading that he was a mess off screen on drugs and alcohol, and that Laughton had to pull that out of him, tips the scale even further for me to go Laughton, because Mitchum was awesome, and you would never know that. So Laughton, can't believe he didn't get to direct another movie. Can't believe somebody just didn't see this and say, like, yeah, you know how to competently direct a movie. Right. Now he did go $200,000 over budget. It took him a long time. He took too long to do it. And again, kids and a drunken lead actor don't help matters. And he hadn't directed a movie before. So it didn't perform well at the box office. It took too long. It was over budget. And people said it was a crappy movie. I get the math of how that didn't happen for you. Again, you go back to acting / directing in the theater. But I just really wish we could have seen him direct again, because he's really, really good at it. It's not the script. Like I said, this movie could have sucked with a different director. Like the script itself doesn't, I'm not a true crime dude. In fact, it's not my thing. So this is an uphill battle in theory for me, and how it's presented and styles everything to this movie. So yay, Laughton.
This is the Lizzy demographic.
um,
Right.
best supporting actor, Lizzie.
I put Lillian Gish for Rachel Cooper. I think to me she's his counterpart. I mean, it's in every way. So I loved how where he brought darkness, she brought light. Where he brought charm, she brought piety. I loved everything about her character, and she was, and more importantly, her character was needed. They, when you needed to show that there is good, and she did a wonderful job.
I think Juan, when he made The Conjuring, mentioned in moments of terror you have to have moments of warmth to make everything work. And in these moments of warmth are so heartwarming to watch John get an apple and share it with her, to then wrap that Christmas present for her in a napkin, and to see the relationship that they have building between each other. It's a short, tiny little movie. You don't have a lot to work with, but boy, they maximized every minute. She's really powerful on the screen. She's mine as well. Chad, how about you? Who's your best supporting?
Yeah, same thing. And I love her scenes with John and Pearl, but really it's the scenes with Ruby that solidify it for me. And we kind of have a bookend of her issues with Ruby, and she gives her that lovely little brooch. And you can just tell how much her love and warmth means to these children. But yeah, Lillian Gish, she's just, there's something about just being a quiet powerhouse that I love. I adored this performance.
What was that line she said? There's nothing better than watching a child receive the smile on their face as they receive their lot. Like when they get their presents and stuff. I mean, gosh, this character's just so good. Like I said, with great evil, there has to be great goodness. I love it. Best shot, Lizzie. Hidden gem, Lizzie.
I already mentioned it, but mine was the music. I thought it was just so fantastic. And I think the music really, for me, added a whole additional layer. Even like the creepy stuff, like that like hanging song. It's like that everybody's singing to the kids. Like there is
so cruel.
What a bullying
horrible
moment.
I mean, music was a major tool in this movie. Yeah. And I loved it. And I loved like the final standoff when he's singing the church hymn, and then she ends up joining him, and it's like two people singing and calling on, she's calling on the power of Jesus. He's masquerading as some, his own evil self. It was really powerful tool in this movie. I loved it.
I love that because he's singing loudly, giving away his position, as if to say, I'm in control here. Like, I'm here to intimidate you. I have nothing to hide from. And she's not backing down. She's got her gun, and she's sitting there on the porch, and she's like, I will give you my position. I will tell you everything. Like, I will match you, and I will meet you here with this gun.
Yes. Right.
So Chad, how about you?
This is my least hidden gem of all time. It's the lighting. Like the shadows and the light and dark play in this film is just incredible. I could watch this movie on mute and still enjoy it.
I love it. Love the pick. Mine's cinematographer Stanley Cortez, which I think is leading down the direction that you are. I mean, they use multiple tricks in the book. They do so many things so well, and they wear their influences so well. They were clearly in sync, Cortez and Laughton. So my hidden gem is the camera work, which in tune is also just the lighting as well. So recast, if you had to recast somebody else and put somebody else in their place, who would it be, Lizzie?
Okay, so I went with Icy Spoon, Evelyn Varden. I wanted to replace her with Angela Lansbury.
I can see it. I just
felt like it could use, like, she's like so obsessed with her. She was giving Mrs. Potts. I mean, really,
fairy tale.
And so I think I was like, you know what, this is what I'm feeling from you, and I just want to take it all the way and just put you in this role. I would have wanted that.
Also, fun fact, she never was young. It just, like, when we watch The Manchurian Candidate, like, I always go back and say, like, wow, this is a long time ago, and you don't look young then either.
Born a 75-year-old woman. It's just like,
yes. So yes, she was born an old woman and ready to play that role. Chad, how about you?
So I'm actually not going after the children here. I am going off after the
Wow.
counterpart of Walt Spoon. Uh, I think I want Hank Warden, and he is the guy. When we did the Searchers, he plays Mose, and
Oh yeah.
he plays this kind of simple-minded character that's a bit quirky, and I think he'd bring a lot of fun here to as a counterpart to Angela Lansbury.
Yeah, it'd be perfect.
Okay. I'm going bigger here. I'm going after Shelley Winters. I didn't think that she was
Ooh.
bad, but there was a degree of being preyed upon, and there were moments of being vulnerable where I thought that we might have been able to do a little better. I'm picking Janet Leigh here.
Okay, it does give
Ooh,
Psycho
okay.
vibes,
Yes,
so
I
yeah.
could see that.
So
She would
I'm
play that shame very well too. I think she would do a very good job of like that of being able to make you feel that in that moment.
Being stabbed off screen is now her thing.
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, I think she would be good at being stabbed. No, I think it's. Thanks for equating that thoughtful pick down to that, Chad. All right. Best shot, Lizzy.
This has been this was actually really hard. I said this actually is arguably sometimes usually the most challenging one for me to come up with. And this was no different. It was just because I had so many to choose from, but I had to go back to the water scene. I just feel like it felt so iconic for me. The way that the seaweed was flowing in the water and then her hair was kind of matching that tone, and she looks so peaceful. But understanding the juxtaposition behind her looking so peaceful and understanding that it's because she's dead is and at the very end he's and to have that be the cut, because the scene directly before was him grieving the loss of his, quote unquote wife that ran off. And I forget exactly what he says, but he kind of alludes to like she's going to be fine, and then for it immediately to cut to that scene, that particular shot was very, very haunting, and I imagine, to Guillermo del Toro's point, probably incredibly challenging to do in the 50s. So it's got to be that one for me.
Great choice. And Chad, how about you? Best shot. There's a Costco warehouse full of choices to choose from here.
I was going to say, I want to see if we're not directors, but see if it's true that we're all going to pick something different. For me, it is the silhouetted horse and rider on the hillside while Harry is singing, leaning on the everlasting arms. John is looking out from the house, and it's gorgeous. It's menacing. He's just bathed in shadow. Love it.
Wow, that actually probably was my choice. So that is mine as well. It is just such a sinister moment of what is coming. You can't get away from him. This is where I equated him to the No Country for Old Men villain coming after you like an unstoppable force. He's not giving up, and you're still not safe. So what a moment in the movie that was. And again, singing confidently, just out in the open. I would say, if I didn't pick that though, the one you mentioned earlier, when she's on the porch and the lighting on the screen is there, the silhouette of Mitchum in the background coming slowly, menacingly towards them. That's really good stuff and a really tense moment of the movie. So nobody mentioned that one. I have to mention that as well. And that underwater corpse scene that you mentioned, Lizzy, was so convincing. Don Beto, who played Walt Spoon in the movie, said that when he saw the movie, he assumed that was actually Shelley Winters holding her breath underwater. It's a dummy. And I also thought that was Shelley Winters holding her breath. I did
too.
I just thought, man, how did you get her? I was sitting there thinking, it's like, you have to sink, you have to let out your air, you have to sit there long enough to get the camera rolling. Like, you have to position yourself, get the hair going all nice and like Guillermo del Toro likes it in the water. Like, how long does she have to hold her breath was what I was thinking. That's a really good dummy, by the way. So shout out to Dummy Guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Best scene, Lizzy.
For me, my favorite scene was the standoff when Harry is singing and just sitting on he leaves he says like, I'll be back at dark. And sure enough, he comes back and he just is so casually posted up singing. And then just as casually, honestly, Rachel is just rocking back and forth in her rocking chair with her shotgun. Like they're both just kind of sitting there, and their strength is, Rachel's strength is coming from a supernatural source, and Harry's strength is, just coming from his pride. And it's just, they're both singing the same song together. And it was a very cool scene. And it felt kind of like the climax in many ways for me. It was very good.
Yeah. Chad, how about you?
It's that same scene. I mean, when he's saying, what a fellowship, what a joy divine. And you almost see a timidity in Rachel's voice as she starts to join in. You can sense that tiny bit of fear. Like there's resolve in her voice too. But she just joins in for the harmony of singing, lean on Jesus, lean on Jesus. And the juxtaposition is just incredible. What a powerful scene that is.
That is mine as well. We are 3 for 3 on this one.
It's hard to pass that up.
It really is. It's
yeah. I will tell you, there's a very strong candidate. It didn't get my pick here, but when the children get away from Harry and they get on the boat and they go down the water, and the animals are on the side of the stream, that one really resonated with me. Music, lighting, just tempo, what it meant for the movie. We're about to unfold a whole second half, basically. And what that does at the midpoint is really powerful. So that would be my runner-up. Best wardrobe or makeup moment, Lizzy.
Harry's tattoos. I think I feel like this is probably incredibly rare for that time to have like those kind of like knuckle tattoos. I feel like it's specifically in the 30s or in the 50s, tattoos were really kind of more associated with like hardened criminals. So to have like a reverend have those tattoos was so interesting. And then again, kind of just calling back to how he uses the word of God for his own evil, being like, this is for my brother, for Cain, who had like hate for his brother. And then you have the love, and it's like the left hand hates the right hand, and they're constantly like this little speech. And just with that one little speech, he like the entire town is eating out of the palm of his hand. So I mean, just like so much commitment to tattooing those on his knuckles, and then being in his mind, he looks at those tattoos as a superpower because it works so often for him, clearly. And he just automatically assumes like they're going to see how committed I am to the gospel and the word of God, that I've actually chosen to write these on my body permanently. And Rachel is like the only one that doesn't see through it. Like he tries so hard, and before he's even halfway through his speech, she's like, no, I don't want to hear what you have to say. And I don't know. I thought that was super interesting.
She's like the guy in Family Guy. He's a phony.
He's a phony. Oh my gosh. I haven't seen that show in a very long time. They used to be like our college show.
Mm-hmm.
Chad, how about you? Best wardrobe or makeup moment?
I mentioned it earlier, but it's the nighty like honeymoon dress that Willa is wearing. And it's not a spectacular outfit. It's slightly revealing on arms and shoulders, but it's pretty conservative by our standards. But I think
so you're saying it's not going to get your spiciest moment at the end of the year?
Absolutely not.
No.
But it's the context of everything where she is really going over her outfit and looking in the mirror and making sure that she's perfect for her husband that she's looking forward to. And then everything that follows, and just the tearing down of her psyche, all based around, it's like, do you really think I'm going to start pawing at you? And the heartbreak that follows from that.
Mm.
It'd be such a devastating thing to hear.
You and Radio Raheem took my love and hate tattoos pick there, Lizzy. So I'm going to go to the rest of the Reverend Harry Powell's outfit and say he stands out in town in the shots. The all black is something a Reverend would wear, but the way that everybody else is dressed in town, there's a lot of lighter grayer tones in this black and white. And again, the wonderful contrast you get in black and white. The wardrobe stands out. The hat stands out. And they turn what could be a nice figure into, again, it's that all black sign of evil. So change one thing. Lizzy, I'm detecting you like this movie, but we're going to make you do it. Change something.
Yes, I do really like this movie. The only thing that I would change is when Rachel shoots Harry and he kind of turns into like a Looney Tune and then just like starts like screaming on the top of his lungs and doing that like crazy
Daffy Duck?
That's the perfect one. This, and you just kind of like just trippy trots away. I actually would have preferred to if they did not do that. I feel like that it took all of the levity out of that scene for me when he, because there's that look of shock and then she shoots and then immediately it's like whoop, 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 and he like runs away. To me, it kind of took the seriousness out of the moment a little bit for me. I would have liked to have I would have preferred more just like utter shock. And because he was so cocky and so confident of him thinking like somehow he's like superhuman, like there's just no way that like his God is going to allow him to go down. And then just kind of watching him slowly realize that his body is failing him. And I think that would have been cooler than what we got. But rest assured, it's not enough to make me dislike the movie. That's just
You've been watching so much John Wick, you just wanted to like, you know, cock the shotgun one more time and then stare down the barrels and be like, I got another one waiting for you.
Have
so
Morpheus come over and be like, are you pissed off? And that's really what that's really what
I totally get that reaction, but I think after all the menace and knife wielding and anger and everything else, I sort of like that he's pathetic.
Me too. I like that he's been reduced. I like that he's been emasculated and reduced to by this good figure. So, but I do see the Daffy Duck in it. It is a big choice, and I mean, maybe we could settle and go in between with an Austin Powers. You shot me. You really shot me. I can't believe it. In the arm. Chad,
that's really
how about you?
So
yeah, good old number 2.
I feel like you need the context that this was meant to be a children's story, albeit a really dark and messed up one. That doesn't mean I like that tonal shift at the end. So I don't particularly need the speech or the Christmas scene with Lily and Gish and the children abiding and celebrating Christmas.
So on brand for you, Chad.
I do. It's very sweet, and I highlighted those moments, but I would much rather the mob tear Harry apart. So we are left with a moral question of how do we deal with evil? How do we really punish evil? To me, that makes it a more interesting movie.
Wow. Yeah. Chad's striking his bingo card. He even got his Grinch on just now. So yeah. All right.
I did cancel Christmas, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Might change one thing. I mentioned a little bit of this earlier. I do not like John dumping the money in haste and frustration at the end while Harry's being drug off. I don't like that Harry sees that the money's there. I actually prefer a rewritten version where John keeps it and he knows it's always there and like they say that I never used a bit of it, nor did Pearl. It wasn't about the money. It's sort of just a keepsake that our father gave it to us. Like I didn't need the money. I needed Rachel's love. And this was enough for me. And, instead of like just dumping it all out there, just like, this isn't even about the money to me. I think there's a more powerful message of like, I have $200,000 in today's money just sitting there in the middle of the Depression and I didn't touch it. So I'm going to do the opposite, Chad. I'm going to drive harder into the warm fuzzies with my change one thing. Sorry.
We are light and dark, Russell.
Best quote. There's some good stuff in here. Lizzy.
Yes, I love Rachel's quote of, when you're little, you have more endurance than God is ever going to grant you again. Children are man at his strongest. They abide.
You are so stride for stride and so many things tonight. That would have been mine as well. I love that choice there.
Yeah, I love it. It's a very powerful quote. Again, it makes me feel a deep sense of responsibility to care well for my children. Not that I didn't before, but I appreciate the message that it has.
Chad, how about you? Best quote.
I would love to go with one of her quotes of it's a hard world for little things immediately as that small creature is swooped up by the owl. But I think the dinner scene where Pearl reaches for the knife and he says, "No, no, no, little lamb, don't touch it. Now don't touch my knife. That makes me mad. That makes me very, very mad. Just tell me where's the money hid." Then he slams his hand down on the table and he says, "John doesn't matter. Can't I get that through your head, you poor, silly, disgusting little wretch? There now, you made me lose my temper. I'm sorry. I'm real sorry. Now just tell me, where's it hid, honey?" And just that roller coaster of emotions, of menace to absolute venom, and then tempers it back, and he starts calling her honey again.
I think mine has to go where like Lizzie's went with the with what she said. I like that the last lines of the movie are "they abide and they endure." One thing that caught me as a like tagline of the movie, or one of those things of when John's in the barn on our favorite scene there, Chad, when he says, "Doesn't he ever sleep?" or "Doesn't he never sleep?" But still, the frustration and the disheartened, like you can see it in his face of like, he's still coming for me.
This is It Follows before It Follows was a thing.
Yes.
And the way he says, "children," like it doesn't, that'll always be burned in my brain.
He doubles down on it. Children. Yeah.
Scary.
And we mentioned this one earlier. One of my best, like, put your fist up, like, ugh, was the John, ain't you gonna say hello to your pa? He's not my pa. No. And he ain't no preacher neither. Like,
Yeah.
That was a very gratifying moment. All right, we've come full circle. And on a scale of 5 stars with half-star intervals, Lizzie, what are you gonna rate Night of the Hunter from 1955?
No surprise here. I mean, this movie is a 5 for me. It's so good. It's so fantastic. Even with like the Looney Tune thing that I would change, that's really strictly more for the sake of the game. I really loved this movie. I love how they can take something that I just love the concept of a wolf in sheep's clothing and how they do it so masterfully. They don't need it to be gratuitous and gory. They find a way to make the mundane so horrifying. And I think that is really that takes smarts and talent that you don't really see in movies today. And I absolutely loved it.
Chad's got his Chad happy dance there. And
I got one.
He's having a victory lap. Chad, what do you give Night of the Living Hunter?
So yeah, this is back-to-back 5 stars for me. I take a month off and then you guys just serve up stuff I love. So Lilo and Stitch, and then this. Lilo and Stitch is my more questionable 5 stars, but you can write letters to me. This is underrated. I have been trying to get this movie on this podcast forever. I am so happy with this particular configuration. I was honestly afraid when Russell's like, "I'm going to let Lizzie throw in one, and then we will just we'll put
draw out of a hat."
Yeah, draw out of a hat, and you have a 1/3 chance of getting this on. I didn't want that. I wanted this configuration for this movie. And Lizzie, thank you for just being like, "I'm not going to contribute." I will do Grease with you. I would love to do Grease with you, but
love it.
I think this is one of the most sinister villains of all time, and it's memorable.
I was initially hurt because we didn't do Wait Until Dark, which is still, by the way, really good movie.
Very
and
good.
I think we should. That was my contribution to the hat. And then before Lizzie said, "I'm throwing this hat in the street," there's no hat. All right, but I'm so glad she did throw the hat away, because it was a silly hat and it didn't look good on me, for one, and for second of all, this movie's outstanding. I wrote 4.5 when I watched it, but studying it quickly, I elevated it to 5. And if I needed to cement it at all, tonight's conversation and reflecting on it with you guys makes me realize I will also join Chad in his club of saying, like, you really need to watch this movie. So
you do.
Yes.
And Radio Raheem, rest in peace, knows what he's talking about with this movie. So
yeah.
So Who's going to help me pick a movie for next time?
All right, next week we're going to do a hard shift. Next week we're going to take on one of the satirical comedies.
After a dark movie like this, surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. We are covering a satirical comedy. And stop calling me Shirley. My name's Lizzy. Here are your options. Option number 1, Spaceballs, 1987. A star pilot for hire and his trusty sidekick must come to rescue a princess and save planet Druidia from the clutches of the evil Spaceballs. Option number 2, The Naked Gun, from the Files of the Police Squad, 1988. Incompetent police detective Frank Drebin must foil an attempt to assassinate Queen Elizabeth II. And option number 3, Hot Shots, from 1991, a parody of Top Gun, in which a talented but unstable fighter pilot must overcome the ghosts of his father and save a mission sabotaged by greedy weapon manufacturers.
They served me a smorgasbord of things that I love. There's a new Naked Gun movie out with Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson right now. It's getting a lot of good press, actually. People are saying nice things about it, and maybe it is good. We'll find out. But you know what is good? The original. So let's go back and revisit The Naked Gun from the Files of the Police Squad.
Yes.
Excellent.
All right, Lizzy, Chad, thank you guys so much. Had a blast as always.
Yes,
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
And thank you all the lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable. We invite you to reach out to us. We want to hear from you. So subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe on our YouTube channel. Give us a like on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at @movies_retro. Email us at retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com. And producing and providing this podcast is fun but not free. So we invite you to support our show at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Retro Movie Roundtable. All contributions are much appreciated and go towards making the show better for you, the listeners. As always, thank you for listening. Be good to each other and watch more movies. Lizzy?
You'll meet her. She's very pretty, even though sometimes she's sad for many days at a time. You'll see when she smiles, you'll love her.